the things I love about this map is that almost always it encourages players to play aggressively and play quickly. So whenever I see a match that goes a little bit longer than usual and has some top tier players, I'm always inclined to watch. Welcome back to the Brightworks, everybody, where today we're taking a look at Forge, a map laden with geothermal vents, Duracell, extra strength crystals, and metal up and out the wazoo. It's a massive battlefield for 8 commanders to vie for control of, and spawning right here on the front lines, just where I like to see them, the blue commander in Cortex plating, going to be going, of course, by the name of Quaif. Quaif here, teetering on the edge of destroying my monetization here. The blue commander, going to be going for Cortex, going to be going for a bot lab here. A bit of an interesting start. Now, few advantages that the bot lab offers you, the biggest of them being the Resbot. The Resbot coming out of the laboratory will allow you to reclaim a whole bunch of these crystals. It means that you're going to stimulate that economy really early on, and it means that you can jumpstart the geothermal production. Once you have one of these geos up, it's pretty easy to get the second, and once you have two, of course, it's easier to get the third, but getting that first one up and running is usually the puzzle to solve, and one of the solutions to that puzzle is the Resbot. Now, spawning right on the front line in exactly the same position on the other side of the map, also as a red commander, also as a Cortex commander, it's gonna be none other than Reet Sweet, whose name has an unfavorable translation, but I'll leave it to the comment section to figure that one out. Reet Sweet, the red commander, gonna be going into some of those Resbots here as well. And you can see immediately reclaiming some of these crystals here, trying to jumpstart that energy economy, getting a constructor out, and no doubt going to be starting up a geothermal almost immediately as soon as we get a couple more of these Resbots out. I think probably two to three Resbots is a good place to go as far as having enough energy to actually be able to start building. For your information, Resbot's actually got a little bit of a nerf recently. It's technically a nerf to the maps, but on certain maps there are positions where there are certain reclaimables where Resbots actually reclaim less than they used to. So, for instance, on submaps you'll see that they, instead of reclaiming about 50 to 60 energy, they'll reclaim closer to 25 or 30. It's a little bit of a nerf to the Resbot, but not enough to substantially shut down the strategy. It just means that usually you have to go for a few extra. But there you go. You can see the build power rushed out right here. You can see those Resbots eating up all these crystals are going to fund the first geothermal right here, and it'll come up in no time at all with the red commander, easily liquefying those Duracell batteries and forming them into a nice, clean, sustainable geothermal power. Already across the map, a whole bunch of grunts from the purple commander. That's going to be Hazy R sending some of those good old-fashioned laser boys forward, trying their very best to get a good engagement, a one-on-one right here, and it will be the red commander who wins the duel. Reet Sweet managing to blast down one of Quaif's early bots will be taking, as far as the front line goes, a little bit of a lead. Couple of ticks, find a rogue constructor that was sent out on the battlefield here without an escort. A definite misplay right now from the yellow commander Zombie. Forgot to send some support forces, and so that will go down. Means, of course, that these mexes are going to come up a lot slower. It also means that, for instance, these geothermals are not going to start anytime soon. Ticks making it into the backline and finding a juicy collection of wind turbines. Going to be focusing those down, trying to chain react them. It is possible to chain react wind turbines. You just need to find, I believe it's 5 of them in a clump right here. So, for instance, popping this one in the middle would do enough damage to chain react all these. Ticks managing to take down a whole bunch of those wind turbines as well as the solar panel, but leaving the mechs intact is a bit of a questionable decision. Maybe splitting up there and using one of the ticks to kill the mechs and then the others to snipe wind turbines would have been the right move. But either way, Salamander Spillionaire, the brown commander, is going to be able to, well, get their base back up and running for the time being. Looks like a early scout plane has come across right here. Not bad. More build power coming up the backline, and the geothermal is pumping out energy left, right, and center. Looks like a couple of grunts make it through and will manage to pop the mexes. Nicely done right there from the Cyan Commander Diffusion. Our German hero is going to be popping a whole bunch of the backline right now. Yeah. Grunt gets into the back. It's going to be disassembled or largely disassembled right here by the build power. 17% remains on this bad boy. Oh, but no build power for the yellow commander. Definitely a bit of an opportunity for the Cyan Commander to take a huge lead right now. Yeah, you can see shutting off those solar panels eventually reclaimed. But definitely hurts a little bit to lose all of that. Now the build power has come up right now for our red commander, and it does mean, of course, that we're going to start pumping out units a whole lot faster. A nice frontline hold right now will mean that the metal extractors are secured and the economies are essentially equalized. Zombie in the lane of choice where the leaks are popping through right now. Oh, constructor just barely stays alive right there for Salamander Spillionaire. These leaks are brutal. Constantly killing the units in the backline. We need to see these grunts micro just a little bit here to intercept. There we go. One move command is all it takes to blast down that Cyan intruder, and finally units are headed out on the field for Zombie, who's been playing catch-up, essentially, trying to cover up these leaks all over the place, but it does mean that eventually the yellow commander was overwhelmed, and so their front line suffered for it. You can see just fighting quite a bit further back than usual. Defusion, trying to hold on to this advantage as much as possible right now. Retweet pumping out a whole bunch of grunts, but it's time to switch up our tech here. We're getting ready for a aggravator battle. Still a couple more grunts in production. I guess we're rushing to the geothermals. Not a bad idea, because of course these geothermals allow you to produce energy, which can be converted into metal as well, so going for the geos is a solid investment, but it does cost quite a bit. Getting these mexes up and running should be top priority. 4 metal per second is a massive boost to the economy right now, especially in the early game, considering that 8 metal per second is usually, roughly speaking, a starting economy, so doubling that every 2 metal extractors is insane. One of the reasons why this map almost always goes to T2 very, very quickly, quicker than most other maps, especially for frontliners. This map's weird because the frontliners are the tech players and the backliners are the support. Sort of weird in that sense, but it does oftentimes mean that if you play aggressively, you're rewarded with a very, very clean, very easy transition to T2. You'll basically produce enough resources on your own for T2 if you just grab all your metal extractors, eat up all the crystals, and build all the geothermals with enough E-converters to siphon away any extra energy into a whole bunch of production. Geothermal's up and running. Well, only one geothermal up and running right now for the yellow commander. This other one is yet to be claimed. I think we need to see this start up just about immediately. Otherwise, Retweet would probably be within the rights to go ahead and try and claim that. If for instance, your opponent isn't going for something like that, a key strategic asset, putting 1 or 2 of them down, never a terrible idea. Just in case. You can always hand them over later. You can have your teammate pay you off or whatever they are. Start a 12-year contract, a 12-year lease on the building or structure or whatever it happens to be. There's always repayment plans in Beyond All Reason, but better to have the economy going towards your team regardless of who specifically it's going to. Spilliator in a little bit of trouble. Those Janus tanks are quite menacing, but they did a lot more damage to their friendly units than anything else right there. So for the time being, I think probably the Brown Commander is more than happy with the way that this fight has turned out so far. Janus and medium tanks trying their best, but my goodness, the Twin Guard is pretty good, isn't it? Droid Force right here also causing a lot of trouble. Zombien, though, setting up a nice strategic defense right here. We've got the beamer turrets, which are, of course, able to fire away at those Rocketeers. And we also have the build power in the back to repair all of these up, which is always nice to see. Going to start, yeah, lasering down those Rocketeers. Nicely done. Hey, love to see it. All right, it's going to take vehicles to crack through this defense at this point. All we need is a HLT or 2, and we're going to be able to lock down this midsection really, really nicely. Now, it's a bummer about losing that metal extractor, but losing 1 mex and keeping your front line is obviously going to be slightly better than losing everything on the front. There we go. Beamer turrets once again firing away. The build power is worried about building a jammer, a sneaky Pete here to try and get these cloaks so that they cannot be targeted from radar safety. It does mean that the beamer turrets are left without build power for a second here, though. Yeah, the commander going to be soaking up that build power as well. You have to be very careful about that. Your commander can accidentally miss-micro your units unintentionally. T2 lab already up and coming. My goodness. 7 minutes and 50 seconds into the game, and the T2 lab just about finishes up here. Looks like we'll have exactly a 7-minute, 55-second T2 laboratory on the front line for Retweet, who was essentially uncontested. Yeah, went for our front line, went for the LLTs, and then Quaif decided to go into a whole bunch of static defense right here on the front. So we've got, we do have the aggravators to fire away at this, actually. So this could be a little bit more aggressive for the blue commander, but of course, they've also gone for T2. So everybody rushing into T2 right now, just hoping to try and keep their front lines up and running as much as possible. We do have a gauntlet coming up here for Zombien, which is quite interesting. A worthwhile investment potentially on the front line because it does have such a wide range of fire on this map. It can fire even away over into this other lane of combat. Nice D-guns, huge D-guns from the commander right there. Nicely done from Zombien's comm. Managing to blast down about 1,000, maybe 800 metal worth of T1 units from the front line right here, from the cyan and green forces in combination. Ooh, that gauntlet, very low in HP, will go down. Oh, what a blunder. Losing that gauntlet hurts quite a lot. Ooh, bombers come across the map right here. Oh, they're pathetic Stormbringer bombers, though. Almost missed the bombing run, but it looks like they didn't manage to achieve too much anyways. The T1 Stormbringer bombers from the Armada faction are just about as good as a clump of dirt on a windy day. It'll blow away in a second as soon as an enemy fighter comes within, and it's not going to do much damage if you drop it on the enemy. All their payload, that is. Construction turret's the primary target that really went down. The only thing really worth any substance that actually was lost there. These T2 metal extractors, though, should be churning out a massive amount of metal at this point. One of the things you consider doing is, of course, scaling up your T1 defenses on the front line, but as you get into T2, those T1 defenses become very worthless very quickly, so it becomes a cost-effectiveness situation where suddenly you just don't have enough economy to actually, or rather, you don't have enough technology in order to keep your economy properly stimulated. Your frontline defense is properly saturated. Will we be going for an advanced geo, though, is the question. And with the core faction, of course, there's not really an option. You either go for an advanced geo or you go for a weaponized geothermal, and the weaponized geothermal is quite powerful, especially in this front position here. If you put a Cerberus cannon, the 3-headed Cerberus cannon right here, one of the most dangerous static defenses to go up against. It has monumental range, and yeah, exactly. The blue commander knows exactly what he's doing right now. A little bit strange to put this twin guard right here. This is going to block the firing range here for the Cerberus. If we take a high arc view, you can see this essentially cuts off a massive line of sight right here from the blue cannon. Basically the direct line of sight to this geothermal. But at the end of the day, it's not really that big of an issue. It's just something you have to be aware of, right? When you're dealing with long-range plasma cannons, you have to be very careful about your positioning so you don't accidentally lose them or negate their effect, rather. Sheldon out now for the Cyan Commander. That's going to be Diffusion, trying to hold the front line. Kyril trying to push it in as well. Both of these commanders looking for an opportunity here. Oh, that's a lot of medium tanks. A lot of medium tanks for Guy Giboe, or Guy Gibo. I don't know how to pronounce that one, but the Powder Blue Commander going to be facing off against basically nothing here for the Pink Commander. Yeah, this is a crisis that we're going to need some kind of solution to. Shuriken are always an option, but there we go. Persecutor Cannon on the front line, but the Cerberus is roaring away here as well. The Radar Jammer here keeping all this, well, for a second keeping all this nicely cloaked, but there we go. The Persecutor Cannon now firing up and away and into the backline, trying to take down the Cerberus. Persecutor's doing a massive amount of damage, though, so it is difficult for the blue team to repair through it. There we go. Reclaim on the Twin Guard will allow the Cerberus to actually fire away. There we go, finally firing into the distance here. Getting an opportunity to fire towards the enemy team right now. Yeah, the Cerberus Cannon is going down. We are going to go for the AGO here, too. So, an exceptionally greedy build from Raid Suite. Yeah. Very, very little buildings on the front line. We're just kind of not really investing anything into the front line, actually. Commander goes down on the northern side. Meanwhile, the blue commander pushing forward and the brown commander knocked out of the game. In fact, leaving the game at that point, losing the commander and leaving the game right here as the T2 bot does scrounge its way across the battlefield into the base of what was once the brown commander, now taken over by the maroon commander, which is a little bit sus because the red commander is, or the maroon commander rather, is of course the air commander, which means that there's a lot to control when you're controlling both. Shuriken are what I would expect here. These tanks are well beyond enemy airfighter range. It means, of course, the Shuriken are going to have more than enough cover to actually be protected, shut down a bunch of this aggression, keep everything nice and neatly tied up, allowing your units to actually clean all of it up very nicely. Fiends are sent up on the northern side. Resbots have already eaten up everything here, though. I suppose in the T1 units that are going down, we're going to make up all the metal difference from that commander being eaten up. Another comm goes down, though. That's the yellow commander. We do have a sizable Hound army at this point, which is going to be quite nice for dealing with that, of course. But, yeah, forces all over the place are losing. Suddenly, this is not looking tremendous for anybody on the red front line. We need some sort of a play to come back into this here. There we go. There's those Shuriken. There's another commander down. My goodness. Cyan commander hunted down ruthlessly by the Hounds right here, walking their way through the lava. Pop-up Riot Cannon, the Sabo Battery Scorpion Cannon, fires away at this point, too. Manages to take down a whole bunch of those Hounds, pop the Fiends, all the rest of it. So much damage. My goodness. So much damage from that Cerberus cannon. Here come the Termites. Ready to devastate whatever they can in the backline. Finally, unit production rips up to a full-fledged start here at 95 metals per second right here. Raid Suite could actually afford to go into T3. It would be a slow T3. It would be a very delayed T3, but it would be a T3 nonetheless. Could well be worth the investment. Loads of ticks on the front line. Obviously, ticks weak to lava. Lava damage, definitely not one of the things that ticks are good at making do against. You have to be very careful about that. This is an Armada commander. On maps with terrain deformity and lava, it can be very easy to accidentally run your army through lava and lose it all. One of the ways to fix that is with any constructor, you can hit the restore button here. That'll enter a restore targeting thing. It can't do it in the spectator mode, but it will enter a little restore targeting thing. You just left click and drag to make a little circle, and that'll create a circle around the area that you want to restore. And most of the time, commanders and other constructor units will basically figure out what you want. They'll manage to put the ground back to where it's supposed to be so that you don't accidentally run your units directly through a bunch of lava. Oh, nicely done. A scuttle on the front line right here for the blue commander. Quave manages to take down all the static defenses that Raid Suite had poured so much love and attention into. And maybe more importantly than the love and attention, a whole bunch of metal into. Now the geothermal's coming up and running. We do have 2 advanced energy converters churning out energy, or well, churning out metal here, converting that energy into metal, which is always nice to see. We've also got some termites. Playing defense with the fiends is great, of course, but the termites have the secret superpower of being able to walk up walls. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Here comes the Spider-Man, sending in the termites, eager to blast down that T2 jammer right here and going to find all the rest of it. That long-range tactical nuclear launcher, the... what is it called? Catalyst, tactical missile launcher here. Not going to be enough to kill that Cerberus in one blast. Maybe in 2 or 3 it'll be enough, but not quite yet. We're falling on all sides here. The red team definitely in a bad position. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no other way to look at it. A 28% advantage here, more or less, for the blue team. Means, of course, that as time goes on and as this game goes on, this is going to be worse and worse. Now, we do have a big bombing run built up right here. Reed Sweet pouring quite a sufficient amount of metal into building a whole bunch of bombers and now a whole bunch of fighters here, hoping to utilize his allies' air fighters in order to try and punch through and do a whole bunch of damage in the backline. And, of course, one of the things that always ends up happening in this game, one of the things that always plays out in this game is, of course, a big bombing run. If you're not prepared for a bombing run with flak trucks and flak turrets and flak everything, you're essentially planning to lose on a game of Forge. And it does look like the red team is ill-prepared for such a bombing run, but does have one of their own prepared. Oftentimes, they can be a can be a weird kind of catch. You find yourself with bombers and with a bombing run, but you don't have yourself protection. Oh, why are we? Oh no, right over the flak turrets, all these bombers go to waste. Unfortunate engagement right there. Yeah, those bombers are going to fly right over all the static defense. The SAM turrets, too, going to be plentiful in shooting down those bombers. Definitely not the bombing trade right there that Reed Sweet was hoping for. And showing the hand to the enemy team, of course, means that now they're going to be more and more prepared for any sort of air fighting. T2 Air Lab is up and running here for the air player for the blue team. Gaio 660? Sexy? I'm not entirely sure. The Seafoam Green Commander, as I would call it. Those Cerberus cannon, man, those Cerberus cannons are deadly. Well, here's another tactical missile launched away. Cerberus cannon plummets into the lava. Oh no. Taking passive damage here from the lava as it's just being devastated. There we go. Commander with the restore command will lift it back out of the lava. What a hilarious way for that to go, though. Killing a static defense with lava sounds just ridiculous. And we do have sharpshooters up and running. Now, when you go for sharpshooters, you must also go for pinpointers, and I don't see those up and running right now for the red team. Definitely a bit of a bummer, because pinpointers can definitely make that a lot easier. They can make sharpshooters particularly, but also basically any other plasma weaponry, very, very effective. Firing accurately into radar vision is obviously a huge benefit to any unit that does fire out at long range. Sheldon, of course, benefit from that. Hounds would as well. Any unit that takes dramatic effect from firing into the fog of war is going to greatly benefit from those pinpointers. It's one of those things, one of those really easy things that you can get into the habit of building when you get into that sort of mid-late game, the late mid-game or the T3 game. Going for 1 or 2 of those pinpointers and maybe having another eco player or something going for one as well. Usually a really easy way to make sure that your team stays in the lead as far as being accurate and making sure that your units are getting as much value as they possibly can. Milking every percentage point of value out of your units is really what it comes down to. Karganeth and Mass right here are going to be going up against the Fiends. Not a bad engagement for the Karganeth, of course, but that is a lot of Fiends now firing away at these Spider Boys. If Termites are Spider Boys, then the Karganeth is the Spider-Man. Both of them do go down to the Fiends. My goodness, the Fiends showcasing massive DPS here in massive clumps. Mass Mammoth coming out now for the Red Commander. Interesting. So we've been massing a lot of fighters at this point, so I wonder if we're going to be trying to just supplement the air fighters here for the Maroon Commander, or whether we're actually going to go for another bombing run. But you can see that Reed Sweet is relying heavily on these advanced geothermals to get this economy running. It's sort of a necessary evil. You have to get those advanced geos, otherwise you're just going to be behind in metal and behind in energy. A little bit of a lull on the front lines right now. Let's take a look at a macroscopic view. You can see that the metal income is in the favor of the blue team, as it has been for a while, and that of course means that the overall metal production is 40,000 metal in the advantage for the blue team as well. It's a 12 to 13% advantage for both the metal and the energy, which does mean, of course, that the blue team is in the lead. Definitely not at the kind of lead that you would go ahead and say is game-winning necessarily, though. You can come back over that much metal. That's, to put it in perspective, 40,000 metal is about the cost of a Juggernaut, I do believe. Or, for instance, what would that be? 10, 20 mammoths or so. 18, what is it, 18 mammoths? 15 mammoths? Something like that. Never do math in the stream is what they tell me. I'll never get it right, but when I do, it'll be awesome. Cheeky play. A couple of transport planes with some construction turrets have been sent on over to this right-hand side. Going to be utilized to go ahead and build a long-range plasma cannon. I can tell you exactly what this is targeting. Well, it's weird that it's targeting that because it's probably meant to be targeting these advanced geothermals over here. Yeah. Going to be well within range of these advanced geothermals over on the right-hand side. These LRPCs can fire out for just miles. Firing at those AGOs and managing to pop them would essentially win you the game. It's very, very difficult to build back into a game of Forge if you lose those AGOs. It's why both teams need to desperately protect their air from, or their airspace rather, from being bombed. That's why a private army of fighters is never a bad idea, and why flak trucks are very common on this map. More so than we usually see. Just going for 10 flak trucks and just putting them all in a row right here along this mountainside, or just kind of scribbled around in this area, can be a really easy way to deter any enemies from going towards your advanced geothermals. Mammoth's doing a phenomenal job of holding the front line down. They actually counter T3 quite well. They have enough HP and enough sustain to actually just blast down T3 over time, and you can see, engaging against this Karganath, these Mammoth 2-on-1 managed to blast it down real quickly. Now, worth mentioning, of course, that the Sharpshooter in the background are also contributing quite a lot of firepower, but the Mammoth walking forward here are definitely stealing the show as they tear apart this T1 defense, and in a nice pair, they're going to be quite difficult to shut down, bar any sort of T2 specific high alpha damage units. We're looking for Sharpshooters, Tachyons, Bulwarks, Pulsars, all those ones that fire one big, heavy, concentrated blast. Any of those are going to work out quite nicely here. 2 tactical missile launchers to counter the one set up here by the Red Commander. Oh, AGO is targeted instead. That's a beautiful snipe right there from the Blue Commander. Manages to fire those twin missile launchers into the AGO, popping it instantly and tearing down all the build power here for the Orange Commander. An unfortunate situation for Bobby, the Orange Commander at 25 open skill, who is forced now to try and come up with a solution. We're going to send some of the units backwards here to try and deal with that. Oh my goodness, the tactical missile launcher connecting with a massive portion of the army right here for the Green Commander on the southern side as well. It's just mass mammoth spam. Okay, interesting. I don't hate it. Mass mammoth, we've seen time and time again, it's just a brutal composition to go up against on the front line. Especially once built up in mass, they can be really frustrating to fight because there's not a lot of units, especially for Cortex, that can actually deal with them very efficiently. Mass Karganath can work. You have to be very on top of it, though. You have to make sure that you're constantly surrounding them and getting the maximum value out of your units. Gunships in the air are a great option as well because the mammoth can't really target air. Technically speaking, it can. But in practice, it doesn't tend to target air very well. Construction towers over here given high priority as well to make sure that this finishes up eventually. It's been a good long minute before these will, or since this has been started up, but eventually I do like this plan here to fire the LRPC. We also have plans to start an economy in the backline. You can see we've queued up a nice little geothermal set, or an APHIS setup in the back here. We've got some APHIS coming up and we've got some E-converters as well. Just in case any of this should explode, we do have the shield wall here to make sure that none of the explosion ripples up the side of that canyon and goes towards the effect of the red team. The eco lead is growing, though. As the lead is growing, the options for dealing with that much metal advantage really start to dwindle. Karganath pushing forward right now. The Rattlesnake not going to be nearly sufficient to shut that down, and the Catapult, of course, going to vastly outrange that T2 static defense, being a T3 siege bot here. We are going for a Pulsar. Okay, I like the Pulsar. I think it's good. I think we probably want to apply shields here, though. I think some shielding, not a bad idea. Protect yourselves from LRPC. Oh, there goes the LRPC. Fires away over here into the backline. Shield starts up immediately for the Blue Commander. It's only a matter of time before that shield does get up and running. LRPC firing away. Trying desperately to target down any of these within range. Oh, it's missing its shots. Unfortunately, this does tend to have quite a sketchy range there. You can see the yellow markers are where the likelihood of a projectile hitting. Not guaranteed that you're going to hit the target. Oh, but when you do, 41% immediately on this geothermal. Oh, no. Oh, don't tell me. LRPC taking the shot. Hold on. We're gonna track it in glorious slow motion. All the way across the battlefield. It's gonna be really awkward if this doesn't hit it. Oh. Okay, hold on. We'll try again. We'll try again in 1 second. I want to get this shot. I think it's gonna be beautiful. It's gonna be really, really beautiful. Here we go. Here we go. Away goes the shell. Headed towards the enemy backline. Oh, did we change targets? Oh, no! Oh, boo! Boo, we changed targets. Okay, well, making a fool of me here. For whatever reason, changing targets. Oh, they... the blue commander deconstructing the AGO. What a cheeky move right there to make sure that it doesn't get popped. Shield generator will come up in time, and it means that the LRPC will not really have a target to fire at. Once that shield comes up and running, there's not really anything those LRPCs are going to be able to do. A clever move from the blue commander, deconstructing that LRPC, making sure that it doesn't pop. I think if that shot that had went towards the SAM turret had actually targeted the AGO, it might have found it just as it was low HP, and it might have been able to really do some serious damage in the backline. But an unfortunate series of events right there for the red commander, who had a cheeky play and was shut down before it managed to really yield any value. At this point, you kind of have to cut costs somewhere, and you might consider disconstructing or deconstructing rather those LRPCs. It's definitely an option. Heavy tanks rolling through here at this point. Nice D-guns from the red commander, though. Retweet cleaning up a whole bunch of those heavy tanks before they managed to actually make way to the base. Mammoth now in position to intercept all these, trying to save this northern side, but also trying to save himself. It's a very tricky situation. Anti-air turrets have been set up here. We've got flak turrets and we've got SAM turrets, chainsaw turrets rather. Those hardened anti-air turrets are very, very good at keeping themselves nice and safe. The the Cerberus cannon's still melting away right here, occupying all of the build power because it's sunken into the lava. RPC firing away, but again, not gonna find much value whatsoever. A nice deflection right there from the shield means, of course, that there's nothing it can do. So what are our options as far as extending this game here? The blue commander ready to push forward. We have the catapults in place to tear down anything in the front that can pose any threat here. The Pulsar trying to outrange all of this. Catapults with a range of 1350 and the Pulsar with a range of with a range of 1400. Oh, yeah, the Pulsar just barely outranging the catapult. Interesting. For whatever reason, I imagine the catapult could outrange the Pulsar, but I suppose it's just the Vanguard, the Armada equivalent. Pulsar here is still wasting its shots on a bunch of pawns, though, which is a bit of an issue. As long as those pawns are draining the Pulsar shots here, there's not a lot that T3 has to really be afraid of. More and more statics coming up and running, though, and it is definitely becoming an issue. LRPC is continuing to fire away here. Yeah, at this point, oh, shielding actually getting a little thin. Maybe, maybe not. Yeah, I think it was just a graphic issue. I don't think that shielding is very thin at all. The blue commander, apparently forgetting to rebuild converters is actually only producing 15 metal out of converters. That's definitely quite low. That should be quite a bit higher now for 3 AGOs coming up and online. There was at one point a behemoth. There it is. The behemoth coming up and running from the blue lab. It's going to take quite a while here at 57 metal per second. Ooh, E-converters pop. Oh, no. Suddenly, the energy is out of control from the blue commander. It's kind of a weird effect because we popped the E-converter, so it might remind the blue commander to worry about it. But this is very cheeky. Yeah, we've got ourselves a little production facility over on the side at this point. Do you consider just abandoning your laboratory production and just going full force into this production? I think it's definitely an option that's worth considering. T1 Laboratory is producing the grunts, and of course the Twitcher here is going to go ahead and produce a whole bunch of those fiends out as well. Fiend grunt, one of the best compositions that Cortex has access to. Quite high mobility, quite high damage, very, very powerful. EMP connects against the bulwark will mean that those mammoths have the time to move forward here as well. Do we have an EMP launcher? No, it's all Cortex. Looks like it's just a good old-fashioned spy bot. Yeah, there it is. Nice. Oh, huge connection for that spy bot right there. Managed to detonate right on top of the demon rather, as well as a whole bunch of these heavy tanks. Beautifully done. The mammoth get the opportunity to slowly pounce upon this demon. Very, very cool. Now firing away with full force, those more than heavy lasers firing away right now. What a beautiful battle. I'm just going to take a second to soak it in. The sounds of war, quite soothing if you ask me. Sometimes I put them on to go to bed. My guilty pleasure about Beyond All Reason is that sometimes I'll just put a battle on. I'll join a random lobby and I'll just put it on in the background as essentially a screensaver. I like the Pitbulls for the defense here. Pulsar's, of course, quite good as well, but with the overwhelming spam coming through at this point, the yellow base is overrun. Well overrun at this point by a whole load of spam coming towards it. Nuclear bombers to try and deter this composition. Shiva marching forward, but being shut down nicely by the Mammoth, actually. Yeah, man. The name of the game today is the Mammoth. Oh, and the red commander taps out. Ladies and gentlemen, overwhelming force of firepower here as the blue commander overwhelms this base as well. A little bit of a cheeky run by with those feeds and the grunts. Overwhelms the tan production. Means that suddenly these APHIS should be targeted down. Oh my goodness. Please. Please. I'm begging. Oh, we're not. Oh, we're not going to target them down because, of course, we're going to capture them. Oh, no, there we go. Midsection pops here, and, of course, it means that the blue team manages to take this victory. I can't say it's a shocking end to this game, as the blue team held the advantage for the longest time, but I was curious if maybe the red players had managed to pull it back. Love the cheeky move. Wow, Retweet earning the golden cow right here. Love the cheeky move of the long-range plasma cannons firing away into the blue backline. Maybe executed slightly differently could have affected the entire shift of the game. But in this case, it's got to be the blue team that manages to take the win. Thanks a ton for watching, and I sure hope that you enjoyed this bizarre match of Beyond All Reason, and I will see you in the very next game. Peace out.